At the beginning of 2024, Tata Steel announced nearly 3,000 job cuts here in Port Talbot because, they say, they need to move to a more environmentally friendly method of creating steel. The unions have accused Tata Steel of being callous, having a callous disregard for the people, for the families who work here. The churches of this area are also calling on the government in Westminster and in Cardiff Bay to respond, to react, to do something, to create more opportunities. In the end, to listen to the voice of the people and the fact that so many thousands of families, not just the workers, but this entire community will be affected. And so we're going to hear from some of the voices, some of the people who live here.
My name is Margaret Jones and I live here in Port Talbot, and I am representing Cenedlaeth Morgannwg Llundain and also the food bank in Port Talbot.
Well, behind you, Margaret, of course, is this steelworks, this towering up behind you. What with these job cuts that have been announced and these lives being affected, what's your response to that?
I'm extremely sad, extremely dispirited. I find it difficult to believe that people should be so uncaring. They've been aware of this situation for a long time, and they've done nothing to help the area to perhaps promote different industries, small industries perhaps. And I feel that we're just going through a time that we thought was past. My grandmother kept the chapel house in Carmel, Aberafan, and she ran the soup kitchen there. And many a time she told me about that time and how hard it was. And she said, Margaret, I'm so glad that you will never see a time like this again. And I can't believe that we are seeing a time like this. And in Carmel, there's now a food bank doing the same job as the soup kitchens used to do. It's shocking when you think about it, when you think those times should have way gone. I don't understand where the government has been, why they are allowing steel to disappear from the whole of Britain, why we are going to be now buying steel from India, etc. Not the same quality steel. The steel here is the best in the world, they tell us, and we've got the expertise here to do it. And it seems difficult to believe why on earth they would leave us like this. Very difficult to believe. I find it extremely disturbing.
You've lived in Port Talbot all your life, I think.
Yes,
Margaret.
Indeed.
So you've seen, I guess, the steelworks at its peak.
Oh, indeed.
As well as now. So when it was good, when the steelworks was booming and employment was high, what was the town like then?
Oh, it was great. It was full of life, and there was enough money. People weren't poor. We had gone through the depression, and suddenly things were looking good again, and we felt that we could survive. People had money for little luxuries. There were that grinding poverty that we had learnt previously, that my grandmother knew, had gone, and people were very, very glad of the fact that they had these jobs, good jobs. It was hard work, of course. I remember my father often coming home absolutely exhausted, but he was proud of the fact that he was working and was bringing enough money home to educate both myself and my brother, to give us a higher education, and for us to have different lives to the life that he had had. And also, of course, to give other young people the opportunity to work in what is not an easy environment, and we have suffered, of course, pollution over the years from the works, but we've always felt that as long as the jobs were there, it was okay. Yeah.
So with these almost 3,000 job cuts that they've announced at the beginning of this year, Margaret, what will the impact be on Sandfields, on the community of Port Talbot, probably on South East Wales? What do you see?
Not very promising, I have to say, but I also feel that as a church that we are, of course, completely reliant on God, and that as we pray constantly in our churches and chapels here for God to perhaps intervene and to put into the hearts of people that perhaps they might like to think of people before money, the people come first, and that possibly that the steelworks, which is such an important the steel, which is so important for us as a country, that perhaps they might realise what they're doing before it's too late. We pray.
And with the general election ahead of us, Margaret, and you're bringing this now to the attention of governments in Westminster and in Cardiff Bay, as well as to the local MP and Aelod Seneddol, what would you like them to hear? What would you like them to do about all of this?
Well, I'd like them to hear the despair that's in our souls, the feeling of that nobody cares. I'd like them to have a more Christian compassion, socialism that helps us, that wants to make things better for us. We've seen Michael Sheen, a Port Talbot man, of course, acting the part of Nye Bevan recently on the stage and in cinemas, and we would like to see some of that fire that Nye Bevan showed towards people, wanting to help other people. And this is what we need from our politicians, a will to help people. I think this is so vital. I'd like them to think about people first.
So we're standing outside Carmel, which is a Presbyterian Church of Wales here in Port Talbot, one of several Presbyterian churches in the town. But it's here that the food bank is situated, Margaret. So I wonder if you could start off by telling us maybe how it started and how many people use the services here.
Yes, well, we started here in Carmel as a project run by Bethan Davis, who was the worker here at the time, working for the Presbyterian Church in Wales. And she decided, well, she saw the need, of course, for help here in the town. And we started here and in our chapel in Carmarthen, in Tabernacle as well. And the two chapels are closely bound together in this. It was started as an ecumenical project. Bethan approached all the leaders of the churches and chapels in Port Talbot and brought them together in this wonderful project. Everybody from the start was enthusiastic and wanted it to work. And of course we had also the support of the Presbyterian Church of Wales and the Henediriaeth Morgannwg Llundain, who very kindly have supported us financially and spiritually over the years. We have gone with the Trussell Trust because the Trussell Trust is a Christian organisation, and they have been extremely helpful, and we've been able to work with them. Everybody has heard of the Trussell Trust, and we go to the various agencies. People go to agencies who feel perhaps to deal with their problems a little bit extra help might be great, and to give them a food parcel every now and again, really helpful. And then they just send them to us and we just produce the food. Sounds simple, but we rely on very generous donations from organisations and from the people of Port Talbot, who are incredibly generous. at this time of great need, when actually things are not so good in Port Talbot with the demise of the steelworks. Things are difficult, and so we've been very grateful that people continue with their generosity as things get worse, because we've had the hundreds and hundreds of people who have used this food bank over the last 10 years, and the numbers of course are increasing because things are getting worse for people, both financially and also of course the problems with their mental health as well, because of the worries and concerns that they have.
I think you said, Margaret, that the food bank here is run entirely by volunteers, is that right?
Absolutely, we don't pay anybody, and the volunteers, I mentioned generosity earlier, of course generosity of time as well. Volunteers put in many hours of really hard work here, moving food around. It's not as simple as it looks. Everything has to be dated, everything has to go out in the right order, all food parcels have to be done properly, effectively, so that we are giving meals to people, and we also use the resources and the money that we receive as donations to buy fresh food for people, eggs and bread and vegetables, fruit, etc., which, as we know, is so important for their health.
And with the redundancies, or rather with the job cuts that have been announced in Port Talbot, Margaret, I wonder what kind of pressure is coming on food banks generally, but this one in particular, because of that?
A lot of pressure, unfortunately, but we are ready for it. We know that we can rely on the generosity of our presbytery to help us in all ways, both financially and spiritually, and we know that this is going to help us to the future despite what might happen next. But we are a little concerned, of course, but we believe, we have faith in God, and we know that God is behind us in all that we are doing. After all, Jesus fed the 5,000, didn't he? And we want to feed 5,000 here in Port Talbot as well.
And I think you said, Margaret, that the van that's next to you is donated by a local company.
Yes.
And it's full of cat food that's come from a local RSPCA animal centre.
Isn't that wonderful? Yes, yes. A van which is on permanent loan. They deal with all our problems there with the van, and it's absolutely wonderful to know that they are there, and that the RSPCA are realising the importance, of course, of cats and dogs to people when they are feeling low or dispirited or worried about the future. We know how important pets can be in that time. So it's good that we feed the pets as well as the people.
Yes, you found us all right then.
Did, yeah.
Good
Thank
to meet you. Thank you
This
for
is
coming.
it?
This is our church.
My name is Andrew Saunders. I'm the mission worker here in Sandfields Presbyterian Church on the Sandfields estate.
And we're here in the church in Sandfields in the shadows of the steelworks. And this story is really about the job cuts and the likely closure of the steelworks in the future. But I know you've got a long personal history yourself.
I have, yes.
With steel.
Yes, I started there myself in 1986 until the end of 2000, so I was 15 years in the cold mill. But my father was working there for 35 years in various parts of the steelworks. But his brother, had various cousins there at the same time. So it was very much a family affair. And many of my co-workers had family there, so everyone seemed to have someone in the steelworks at that time.
And this church was partly funded at one point, or partly built with money from the steelworks?
Yes, well, in 1959, during the war, the original church had been bombed by enemy action. So in 1959, the Presbyterian Church decided to rebuild a church on the estate here. As the estate was being built for Irish labourers coming over to help build the steelworks, so we needed a church here. And the building was funded partly by the Liverpool Presbytery, and a substantial grant was provided by the Steel Company of Wales. So there is a connection there, and our sign also incorporates the S of the British Steel logo.
Yeah, I noticed that. So Andrew, with the likely closure of the steelworks at some point in the future, and with the imminent loss of up to 3,000 jobs this year or next year, what are your concerns for this particular area, for your church and for Sandfields itself?
Well, it's very worrying. I mean, I'd say they are the largest employer in the town, if not the area. It's a huge, huge site. So spiritually, I mean, I'm worried about people are going to lose hope, because people don't have the hope in the way that we as Christians do. They don't know where the next pay packet's coming from when they lose their job. And it is a big concern. Now, I have spoken to several steel workers over the last couple of months. Some have been lucky enough to be redeployed. Some are very happy to take early retirement. But there are many, many who are still very much uncertain of what the future holds. So it's very worrying indeed. We're already in quite a poverty area, and things I think are only going to get worse, sadly.
And driving through the estate, I noticed there were a number of other churches on Sandfields.
Yes.
And I guess your concern will be shared by pretty much all of those.
Yes, well, there were 5 churches on the estate, but last month the Anglican Church closed their church on the estate, along with 3 others in the town as well, which has come at a very bad time with the looming loss of the steelworks. There are other churches. We are hoping to get together, maybe see how we can help the estate, or help the town, not just the estate, because the workers come from all over, to see if we can come up with some sort of action plan, to just be there, to be a presence, to help if needed.
And I know that you've added your name to a kind of a statement addressed to the government, Westminster and
Yes.
Cardiff Bay, raising awareness of this. What would you like to see happen in response to that?
Well, I'd like to see the Welsh Assembly step in a bit more to help the workers. I feel that Tata has been very unfair to workers and not been very flexible. I mean, these are people's lives we're talking about. It's not just a job. You can't just walk from one job into another these days like you used to be able to. So when you lose your job, it really is a major thing, whether you ever get another job. I've been there myself. When I left the steelworks in 2000, I was able to walk into another job, but that's proven harder and harder as we go along.
And with the general election looming in a few weeks' time, Andrew, what would you, and so awareness is going to be high.
Yes, absolutely.
Places like Port Talbot and this. What would you like to say to those who, are in power, who have the purse strings? What could they do to make things better?
Oh, that's a big question, isn't it? To the voters, I say, think very, very wisely and carefully, but the government care more about the small people that you were elected to serve. We put you in power. It's our votes that get you into Parliament. So please take a care for the working man and woman in these smaller, forgotten towns.
I'm Tina Saunders, Andrew's wife. I'm the manager of the baby bank / clothes bank here.
And so I've been into the kind of little warehouse you've got here,
Yes.
which is full of clothes. You mentioned it's a clothes bank and a baby bank. So that suggests there's a big demand from all the ages.
Yes. We started 18 months ago as a baby bank. But we quickly realised as it was growing that there was a demand for other clothes and a lot more in the last 8 months that the ages increase, and we're seeing a lot more adults come in for adult clothes as well.
And so people can literally come in,
Yes.
express their need, what they're looking for, and
Yes,
you
yeah.
help them out.
Yes, they can. We cover all aspects of babies, so from Moses baskets, baby baths, everything you need, clothes, bedding, and then the clothes go up to adult. But we're also seeing an increasing need for household stuff as well. We get asked for bedding, towels, all sorts of things, really. We're not part of the food bank, but we do have an emergency supply of food here because we get phone calls from social services and things in an emergency case. We've just helped somebody now gone into hospital that was homeless, so they needed toiletries, pyjamas, change of clothes, that sort of thing. But we get asked quite a bit for that sort of stuff as well.
And I guess behind every request for clothing, you must be hearing some pretty harrowing stories as well.
Yes, we've quite a few desperate stories, as Andrew has already said. It's just, there seems to be no hope. You're seeing less and less hope around at the moment. So while we're open on a Thursday, 11 till 2 for the baby bank, we've got a cafe area open, and we're seeing that getting busier and busier as well. And we're there for prayer. We're there just to be a friendly conversation. We seem to be making a breakthrough slowly.
And the congregation in Sandfields, it's the Sunday congregation, is relatively small.
Yes.
Is that right? But
Yes,
your
yeah.
vision is huge, is for the estate.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a really big vision that you're carrying.
Oh, yes, it is. Everything we've taken on here, we've prayed about, and it's all community connected with the gardening group. They're from the community, the dance group, everything. It's all community based. So it's just trying to give that bit of hope on different days to people. Somewhere to go, something to do.
You mentioned that you'd seen, over the last 8 months, things seem to have shifted.
Yes.
The need, or greater demand, I suppose. Have you thought about why that might be? Has something happened in 8 months, or is it just the general kind of unemployment, or some issues?
It's unemployment, and with the steelworks, we're seeing people coming in, families from the steelworks that we've known for quite a long time. They come in slightly with a bit of embarrassment that they're having to come in, and it's nice that they're leaving not with that.
Yes.
That we're making it that it's basically we're helping the environment, we're helping each other. We're making it more about the environment, and what stuff is donated would go to landfill maybe, or wasted, rather than being you're too poor to come in.
Yes.
You know, you need stuff. So, yes.
So it's recycling.
Yes, more.
Clothes.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And just sharing everything with each other. As we said, we've helped roughly, the first 18 months we did a sort of count of people coming in, around over 200 mums, but that's roughly around 500 children.
Yeah.
So it's quite a lot.
Yes. So, Anne, in terms of the people who come and use the clothes bank and the baby bank,
Yes.
what kind of people are we talking about? Are people who are out of work? Are the people in work? I wonder if you could describe the kind of clients you have.
Well, surprisingly, we've seen a rise in the number of people who are in work coming for help, particularly the self-employed. Many people employed by larger companies as well, struggling with the cost of living crisis, the increases in gas and electric prices, fuel prices, and everything has gone up, and groceries especially. So they are coming in, and they, in many ways, are more embarrassed because they are working for a living, but can't afford to provide for their families. So we've seen a lot more of that lately. Very sad.
And how do you, because that must feel like quite a stigma for people, that feeling I'm coming in here and I'm having to take charity or accept gifts. How do you reassure people that this is okay, this is a normal thing to do?
Yes, well, I'm not ashamed to say I've used a food bank myself in the past when I've been working, because we were struggling at the time. And there's no stigma involved at all, at least there shouldn't be. You know, we're totally non-judgmental. Anyone is welcome here, and I please ask anyone, never be afraid to come through these doors. You'll always receive a welcome, a cup of tea, a listening ear. Somebody you want, we'll have a chat if you want. We'll pray for you if you want. But please, you know, I urge anyone to just feel no shame at coming at all, because there is no shame whatsoever. We are here to help anyone and everyone. You're all God's children. So.
Well, it's the end of our journey here in Port Talbot on this Sandfields estate in the shadows of the Port Talbot steelworks. As the town prepares for these job cuts, and in the long run the end of steel making as we've known it in Port Talbot, it's good to see that local churches and Christians are so active in this area. We've talked about the food bank, we've talked about the clothes bank and the baby bank. And as Christians locally campaign to help the plight of people who are going to be out of work and families who will be lacking hope in this area, maybe it's a responsibility on all of us as Christians to lobby MPs and the Aelodau Seneddol and ask them at this time of election to do more, to not forget places like Sandfields and Port Talbot, and to invest more in the future of these places.